So what we wanted to do was do some passive recon, gather domains for counties, cities, counties, cities, school districts, that sort of thing, understand what their footprint looks like, what are those domains, subdomains, website endpoints that they have available, and then check for vulnerabilities around those open ports and services. Speaking of the CFAA, it's pretty well established at this point that port scan isn't in violation of that as long as you don't do anything aggressive to that service. And so what we're doing is grabbing headers from those port scans and then cross-referencing those to open databases for known vulnerabilities in that software. And so that's how we're getting the vuln scan. It's not like a Nessus scan or something like that. It's not as in-depth, but it kind of gives us a little protection, for legal reasons. Yep.
Do you mind sharing what tooling you did use for the port scan?
Yeah, so that's just a thing I wrote. Yep, so no, so I'll kind of show you that in a second. We bundled this all into a suite, and I'll tell you how to get access to it if you want. Yeah.
Did you bump it up against Shodan?
Yep, so we've pulled some data from Shodan just to kind of compare what we were getting versus them. We wanted to make sure we weren't putting out a lot of false negatives. A false negative is way worse than a false positive in vuln scanning in my mind. And the results were pretty much a one-to-one. Yep. And so then we take this and then we put a score around it, just like a credit score, 300, 850. And then it just makes it easier to convey the message when you're, showing the data. So speaking of tooling, we made a tool to do this. It's called Mirrored Defense. It is, we'll talk a little bit more on how you can get signed up if you want, but you get one scan for free. The way it works is you put in a TLD, top level domain, it scans it, it'll look at subdomains, endpoints, and give you a vulnerability score, and then an overall score for what your surface looks like. So here's the results of that effort. These are US counties scanned against the criteria we just talked about. This was our initial pass, so a year ago. We've gotten better, I think, at detecting more vulnerabilities, more open ports and services. We're currently working our way back through the US again to redo this map. But yeah, take a second and look at this and just kind of see maybe if there's something that jumps out at you from the data. What's that?
Southern California is red.
Well, this is one giant county. It's huge, right? But yeah, that's a county and that's a county. So,
Center of the U.S. seems to be more green
mm-hmm.
than the outliers.
Why do you think that is?
Content delivery networks or something of that nature, or maybe like where things are co-located by IP.
Sort of. Yep.
Less urbanization, just less.
It's just less people. Yeah.
So there's no sort of like density on this. This is just a total number.
Yeah, this is just total number. It's not adjusted for population. So this really struck me because our company's headquartered in Minnesota, so we did Minnesota first. It's very red and orange, and we were like, well, that's not good. And then I'm from Kentucky, live here in Louisville, and so I was like, all right, let's do Kentucky next, because it's going to be terrible. That was my initial thought, was Kentucky's going to be bad. There's all these, we have like the second or third most counties of any state in the country. There's all these little, one-off agencies running things. Their IT infrastructure is probably awful. It's not bad. It's actually okay. And, looking at other places like Iowa and, the middle of the country, that's what really jumped out is, okay, there are more, there are these little counties. They probably don't have the technical infrastructure and the people to support it like the larger urban areas would. But the fact of the matter is their attack surface is more simple because You know, I'm from Clay County, Kentucky, down here, eastern Kentucky. If you go to Clay County's website, it's just a picture of the courthouse. there's nothing there. You can't like renew your driver's license online or anything like that. There's just not a lot of services there. So take a look at what it looks like without the green and good stuff. These are all pretty bad. You know, we're talking about 800 counties that could use help out of, you know, about 2,500. So, you know, close to a third.
What does the light gray mean? Like there's the dark, like is that just not enough information or something?
Yeah, this light gray is, yeah, this is not enough information. So if we go back, I'll show you here. Green and blue is good.
Yeah.
Dark gray is kind of on the edge, and then orange and red are really bad. Yeah. And so this map is just the green and blue removed.
So did you find that most metropolitan areas are where you see a lot of red?
Yeah, it kind of works out that way. I mean, I would say it's not completely aligned, but, you know, Southern California, middle of Texas, you know, up here, Cascade area, Chicago, you know, Minneapolis, New York, New Jersey. It kind of works out that way. And it's just because they've opened up all these, you know, services, which is good, right? I mean, you need to serve the community that you're working for to make it easier to get things like a driver's license or update your car tags, whatever. But the problem is you know, your attack surface balloons. So this is just county information. We wanted to really start digging in on this, you know, as we're kind of maturing this, we wanted to get deeper. We wanted to look at water districts, electric co-ops, school districts, cities, like city infrastructure as well, and then also the counties. So we started with Montana. Why Montana? Well, it's smaller as far as counties go. The population's smaller, the counties are smaller, and this is a large effort. In doing Montana, we scanned about 800 top-level domains, and I'll get to the metrics in a second of what that translates to for port services, vulnerabilities, and website endpoints, but it's huge, even for a smaller state. The other reason, I didn't mention it before, but I'm a big fisherman, so you know, I figured I'd put this report together and maybe somebody in Montana would call me and say, hey, you want to come catch a brown trout on the Missouri River or something? But that's really it. And they have a decent mix of urban and rural areas. And so it just kind of made sense for us. So here's what that county map looks like. And it follows a very similar trend. So, you know, down here you have things like Butte and Bozeman. Missoula's okay, Great Falls, that county's okay. But a lot of the population's down here, and then there's some over here on the right toward Billings. But overall, similar to Kentucky, they're doing pretty good. There's nobody up in the northeast of the state, and they're overall doing okay. So the trend kind of follows. Where the people are, that's where you're going to find the vulnerabilities. So then let's take a look at cities. So hopefully something jumps out here, which is that when you overlay the city data, the cities, I think, are doing worse, right? Which I don't think that was exactly what I was expecting to see. A lot of this has been, you know, a learning exercise of making some assumptions and then being proven wrong on those assumptions. But yeah, I mean, same thing. What's interesting too is, you know, you'll have red counties with a green city, red cities and a green county, which is not a bad thing. What that means is that they're probably not sharing infrastructure. And that's good because when you do share infrastructure, you get cascading effects where, you know, your tech stack is flawed in some way. It's serving a broad set of needs, and then, you know, it's just cascading down. Any questions so far?
So earlier you had mentioned, you know, if somebody wanted to use your tool, they could get like a free top-level domain.
Mm-hmm.
But when you did something like, say, the county, you had mentioned multiple agencies, so I assume you were actually looking at numerous domains for each one of these given.
Yeah, so in Montana it was about 800 TLDs. Yep. Yeah, and then the way that works out is obviously, you know, you have a domain, frsecure.com, whatever, and then you're going to have a ton of subdomains for different services and systems on the internet. So it's very much a one-to-many
So,
representation.
follow-on question, did you, to get the list of domains and subdomains, rather,
Yep.
did you get that from, I guess, whatever individual POCs you were working with, or did you also do some spidering?
Yeah, this is the part where I should probably tell you, we have not partnered with any agency to do this at this time. So this is all just a grassroots, I'm gonna sit at my computer and scrape the internet for county, city, government agency websites. It was a pain in the ass. Frankly, it sucked. I mean, so to do the United States, some states actually have a directory of all their city, county websites. That's great. You can scrape that out really easily. A lot of places don't. Kentucky doesn't, for instance. And so things like scraping Wikipedia, right? You get a list of all the counties and cities from the USGS. They publish that data on GitHub. Take that, do a scrape of like Wikipedia. Most of the time they have a link to that website inside of that page. We did DNS lookups on .gov DNS servers, but then the problem is probably 3/4 of the infrastructure in the United States don't have a .gov. It's a .us or a .something else. .com. We found some .nets, so it's just a complete hodgepodge. But yeah, the enumeration piece of it was difficult. And that's part of the reason why I want to talk about this is to get other people involved so that, you know, if you're in one of these areas, I mean, we all live somewhere, you know what that, what your local, you know, kind of IT infrastructure looks like. Like, yeah, we have a police department has a website, whatever. Get that data so that we can then map it out.
Not to absorb all the questions.
No, you're good.
Moment, but so did you come from doing previous to this OSINT, Red Team, that type of exercises? Like, how familiar are you with like doing large scale OSINT for any given entity?
Yeah, so that is my exact background. I've been a red teamer I've been in IT security about 15 years and then red teaming for about 10 years. So that's my day job.
That's what it seemed like you were using kind of that approach.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Did you do any like, through this process, Good Samaritan reporting, like
Mm-hmm.
reach out to somebody and say, hey, you have RDP open or whatever?
That's exactly what we're doing. That is the whole point of this, is to gather our findings and try to get it in front of people who can actually make a difference. Yeah.
So one of the questions I thought, when you found green,
Mhm.
did you find out that maybe some of that was SaaS related?
There is a lot of that. Yeah, for sure.
Because, you know, a SaaS vendor,
Yep.
if they spread that across, you know, hey, I do counties,
Mm-hmm.
and they do services for counties, if they're secure, then any county uses that.
Yes. So we found that quite a bit actually, and that is, that's actually a point I was going to talk about in a minute. But yeah, that was one of our findings, was in Montana specifically, a lot of their counties were using those solutions, whereas their cities were not. The cities were more isolated and kind of doing their own thing. Yep. But very good point. Yeah.
Thank you for doing this. I do a lot of work with counties and cities. This is part of my job. And talk about, you know, you did the Good Samaritan reporting. Talk about some of the responses that you received.
I think you probably know the answer by asking that question. It's been a mixed bag. There was, early on when we were reaching out to people, it was a lot of, who the hell do you think you are? What gives you the right? And then when they found out that we're not extorting them, we're not making money on this. This is a completely free service that we're doing as a community effort. And it's like, we're not extorting you here. Then the conversation kind of shifted. And now we have a little, there's a ton of people who don't know who the hell we are, but a lot of people do kind of at this point, and they're like, okay, yeah, we'll be more accepting of the results. But in general, I mean, when you take someone to finding blind, the response is always bad initially, right? Like if somebody sent me an email or showed up to my office and handed me a report and said, yeah, we did all this background information on FR Secure, you guys suck here and are good here. Yeah, I'm not going to be, probably wouldn't be a good conversation initially, right? So it's just, yeah, we've gotten better about framing the conversation and just letting people know, like, hey, we're just trying to help here. We're not doing this to, like I said, shame someone or extort you out of something. We've been working more with CISA. Problem is, like I had a really good CISA contact in Montana and a really good CISA contact in Minneapolis, and then they were let go 3 weeks ago. So now what, right? Like I don't have anyone to work with who's boots on the ground in those states now. So that's a challenge.
What about like NACO or one of their national the National Association of Counties?
Right, yep. So we haven't busted into the National Association of Counties. There's State Association of Counties in some states. They have those too. We've been working with those in a few places.
The MSI SACs and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, exactly. InfraGard has been a good resource for us. I've presented InfraGard a couple times. I need to get on the books with InfraGard here. But yeah, just things like that. We're looking for those kind of the public sector, private sector partnership programs is really key for us. Yeah, for sure. So cities, counties. We also looked at government agencies. So like the Montana State Lottery, for instance, their state police, as well as school districts. And so what's interesting is, you'll see it's kind of a mixed bag here. Here's what the metrics overall look like when you take into account those agencies and school districts. Overall, good, not bad. Some places are really bad. Some areas need a lot of help. Some don't. What was really surprising to me is I've done a lot of work, pen testing, red teaming, vuln scanning, school districts in the past. If anybody's ever worked with a school district, you probably know it's typically not good. So I don't want to misrepresent the information there, but what we found was their external attack surface is actually really good in general. And it's one of those cases where, your school's website just has some pictures and a calendar on it, not a lot to attack there. You get into the internal infrastructure of a school district, that's a whole other story. That's a nightmare. But yeah, so you can see here, almost 1,500 vulnerabilities. And again, Montana's not a big place. 1,734,800 website endpoints. So those are URIs, website resources that we've combed through to look for things like, dev sites that had hard-coded credentials, things like that. We wanted to call it out because there's a lot of bloat, right? I mean, 800 TLDs translates to 1.7 million websites. That's a lot of data to come through. And then again here, those 800 TLDs translates into 4,000 subdomains, so into other individual systems on the internet that are serving a purpose. Yeah.
Did you find patterns of top vulnerabilities or top good things?
Yep, we're about to hit that. So, in one of those many conversations that I have with lawyers, they advise that basically what we're doing is not illegal, no problems, right? It's okay. We just shouldn't publish our results. I'm standing here publishing my results. But so I have to be kind of vague about a few things, a little bit. But we'll kind of talk about that next. So like we covered, they have disproportionately large attack surfaces relative to private entities, obviously. Typically lack the resources to secure those properly. That's pretty well known. So, unsurprisingly, the largest sources of risk are vulnerabilities on network systems and insecure ports and services. I think we all knew that before I went, spent 2 years of my life doing this. So what's interesting is in Montana, they had a separated infrastructure for all these things, and so some would be good, some would be bad. Across the US though, we've found that there's a lot of shared infrastructure, and so then you get those cascading vulnerabilities and areas of risk where, one server or one data center is serving cities, counties, schools, everything, and it has one issue, but that's, multiplied 5 or 6 times when it comes to what they're opening up.
Were there any kind of strange or unexpected trends that you saw?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest one was what I talked about before with, some of the more rural areas and smaller population areas having overall a better posture. That ran counter to what I was thinking. On that topic, these were the most common vulnerabilities we found, right? This was not surprising to me, but it might be surprising to some people. What stands out to you about this?
They're over a year old.
Yeah, it's all old shit. Couple years old at this point. And again, that wasn't surprising to me. I've done vulnerability management for a long time. It's a struggle working through the backlog, we get that. But this isn't like, 0-day stuff. It's old Exchange vulnerabilities, right? The Microsoft vulnerability from 2022, I thought everybody knew about that one and get it fixed. And this popped up time after time. So, talking about recommendations for these folks when we approach them and say, hey, you've got some issues. Nothing here is surprising, right? They should be regularly conducting vulnerability scans, enumerating ports and services. That's always the thing I'll talk about with vuln scanning is if anybody here has ran a Nessus scan or Nexpose or whatever your vuln scanner of choice is, you're going to get vulnerabilities back for everything that you put in scope. What it's not going to tell you is that you have, it will, you just have to dig for it, is that you have RDP open to the internet, right? Because if the service is patched properly, there's no vulnerability for it, it's not going to jump out to you and say, hey, this is a big problem. I use that as an example. Does anybody know why that's a big problem specifically? So what happened was, there's a long story to this, but during COVID, a lot of people started working from home, right? Companies scrambled, organizations scrambled. They didn't have a VPN potentially. They didn't know how they were going to get their workforce into their environment to do their job. And so they just opened VPN up, or RDP up. Problem with RDP, and just a little tip for you pen testers out there, RDP, typically if you have an admin password associated on that machine where RDP is hosted, that RID 500 account can't be locked out through password spraying or brute forcing in this case. So you find RDP open the internet, you can sit there and hammer it for 5 years if you want, and as long as you don't crash the service, you might eventually get a password that works, and it's going to be admin, and you've got the keys to the kingdom at that point. That doesn't come back on a vuln scan. Not really. You can dig through the open ports and services, which is an informational finding, and it'll tell you, yep, RDP's open. There's nothing there that's going to say, hey, this is really bad, you need to lock that down. And so this is the kind of awareness we're trying to get out there. Is sometimes people don't know, right? It's like, well, we scan, there's no vulnerabilities. What's the problem? Well, you have FTP open, that's a problem. So, tell you a little bit about why I'm here and what we want to do next. We want to make the United States green. Every county in the U.S., we want to be green. We're going to expand our methodology and what we did with Montana to other states. I'm working on Kentucky right now. If you have a suggestion, if you're from out of town, just tell me. Tell me which state you want to see next. I'll do it. We want to get the community involved. Talking to your point about how these conversations go when we approach people with these findings in an honest manner, I think getting that kind of grassroots community effort around it really goes a long way. If you're hearing it from more than just me, you know, that I think would be really beneficial. And then again, talking about those different, you know, coalitions of counties, InfraGard, we're just trying to get local leadership aware of this and just trying to get some resources around it to help them out. And so, mirrordefense.com, it's open to the public. You can run once per year, get a free scan on a TLD. You don't have to use it to scan a county. You can scan your own company. That's fine. But check it out. Go to the website. We don't have an open registration, but there'll be a little, you know, first, last name, email address form. That comes to me. I'll get you in. Yep.
There was as you're talking about this stuff, there was a Blue Team Summit in Kentucky that happened, I think like earlier this month. I don't know if you went to that or not.
I was not there, no.
It was the first one they ever
Yeah.
did. Really excellent.
Cool.
And there was my CISO was speaking there, and we started getting into the topics of like there's a lot. So I work in healthcare.
Mhm.
There's a lot of these smaller rural hospitals that just do not have the resources
Yep.
to deal with this stuff, and so these kinds of tools and stuff like that you have would be really helpful for them.
Yep.
Big time. But they're trying to make Blue Team Summit like an annual thing, and that'd be something that like a lot of people would be interested in this.
Great. Yeah. Do you know who hosts that?
Oh, I can't remember.
Okay. I'll check it out.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, good. Thanks
Kentucky
for.
Blue Team Summit
Yeah.
was held in Frankfurt, like the Kentucky Transportation.
I think just I was at that one. I think it's just the Department of Homeland Security.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So DHS and CISA. Yeah. Gotcha. Okay. Cool. Yeah. Thank you. I'll definitely check that out.
What I was gonna say is, it would be really cool if we could get the community, like groups like ISSA,
Yeah.
to partner with you.
Yep.
And if you find, you know, because there's one in Cincinnati, there's
Yep.
and they're everywhere, right?
Yep. Exactly.
So if you guys fed them and they have contacts
Yeah.
through their local InfraGards, you know, you're gonna have to disperse this, it's just too big.
Yeah, exactly. I'm one guy. We built this. This is a two-man team. Me and Evan Francine, the CEO of FR Secure. We built this together. So we're just two people, man. Like, you know, I'm trying to get the word out, but yeah, we really need community engagement and other people looking at this.
There's even like a university study recently, I think, that said like in order to actually like close up these vulnerabilities, like there has to be some sort of volunteer effort.
Yes, that's the only way to do it.
I mean, it would be great to have college students,
Yeah.
I mean, this would be great training,
Yep.
and the cost should be minimal.
That's right. And so we set this up. I mean, you can get all the information out of it that you need to as a security professional. It's very in-depth if you want to go in-depth. If you've never looked at a security tool in your life, you can use this. You log in, and there's a big bar there that says put in the domain you want to scan, and that's it. You know, whereas like with a classic vulnerability scanner, you know, you need to know your set of IPs or, you know, whatever that scope is, do them all individually. We set it up to do back-end discovery, all that whois data, that sort of thing, and then it trees it all out on the back end. You just get a nice little report. But yeah, I mean, we want you to use this for what I'm talking about with, you know, securing the country's infrastructure. you can just use it on your own stuff if you want.
So when anybody goes and runs that on whatever they want, does that get added to your database and, increase the fidelity of your model?
It does. Nobody else is seeing that though, so it's, it goes into our database. We're looking at that data. We don't sell this or anything like that, but but yes.
I'm not accusing you. So
Nope.
I'm-
No, I just
I'm
want to make that clear. Yeah,
I
no.
want to see if, everybody does this, if you just get a better, clearer picture every single time.
Yeah. It's a good point. I want to make that very clear. Who here has heard of BuildCyber and companies like that do kind of, these scores on different organizations? I hope nobody here works for BuildCyber. If so, I would like to talk to you, but I'm about to say something, which is that I think that is an absolutely scummy business practice. They do what you do, or what you're talking about, sign up, do an assessment of your organization, and then there's a little box there that says, by doing this, I agree that we own this data, and then we're gonna use it against you. So if somebody else comes and wants to know what your organization looks like, they send it to them, and you have no recourse. You can't even work with them to say, hey, I've got an F or a D on this report card you sent me.
Right.
What do I do to fix it? Well, you have to sign up and pay them to then get the results in order to fix the stuff that they're using against you. It drives me crazy. Yeah, it's a very dishonest and scummy business practice, in my opinion. And so we don't do that. That's why I'm here. We want to work with people directly. We want to work with organizations directly, private, public, you name it. Really quick, I'll just tell you about some of our other free resources. You're probably sensing a theme here. We like to give stuff away. So we have some podcasts where we talk about security. Really though, what you want to pay attention to here are things like the IR playbooks, templates, guides. If you don't have a response plan, an incident response plan, you can go to our website, download the template, and then change it however you want. Make it work for your organization, and then use it. Test it, please. We have malware, or business email compromise playbooks. I'm sure this is probably something that everybody's experienced at one point or another in their org. Download that playbook, and hopefully you'll be better prepared if you do have an incident. Last thing I'll mention is our CISSP mentor program. It's probably not, you've probably never heard of that. It's very well known, back at our home base in Minnesota. If you're looking to become a security professional and you're looking at things like the CISSP, we offer a completely free training program where security professionals, people who have their CISSP, will come in, do lectures on the content from the CISSP program, and walk you through, basically not just how to take the test, that's obviously part of it, but it's more about understanding the actual concepts that you're going through on a cert like that. Completely free. So this is my info. If you want to get in touch with me, feel free. If you go to mirroredefense.com and sign up, I'll get your information that way too. And yeah, I appreciate the time. Got, I guess, 5 minutes for questions. Yeah.
Yeah, is there any way for us to kind of get involved? I really am appreciative of this kind of endeavor.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So we are working on, I think we have a good solution, and I won't go too much into details on the technical stuff. What I want to do eventually is release a light version of the software that we're talking about. So if you didn't want to do it through this, through our portal here, releasing that information on GitHub, just like as a downloadable open source. You can run it and then shoot that back to us if you want. We are absolutely looking for volunteers. So if this is something you're interested in, I don't care what your, what your background is or skill level, we can teach you how to do these things because it's not overly complicated. But yeah, definitely reach out to me. Other questions? Okay. Well, thank you all. Feel free to come chat if you want.